Welcome to Elijah Streams with your host, Steve Schultz, president and founder of Elijah List Ministries. Stay tuned for another exciting show where you'll see the many ways God is interrupting your world, your nation, and your family to release His blessings and decisions on the earth. Watch today as another prophetic voice speaks to you with fresh revelation from heaven. And now, sit back and enjoy Elijah Streams.
Welcome to Elijah Streams. I'm Steve Schultz, and I'm here today with Cindy McGill and her husband, Tim McGill. And some of you may have seen the previous segment with Cindy. We talked a lot about Burning Man and the adult industry and how God's called her to that. Now we're going to talk about today about dreams and dream interpretation. And Tim, I'm going to start with you. You and Cindy do a lot of dream interpretations. But before we talk about dream interpretations, when I was originally a Christian, I was taught that all that stuff was not for today. Talk to the people and talk to me about why, how can we even know that dreams are for today? What's the deal? How do we even know dreams are for today?
Probably for us, the primary foundational, scripture that we discovered in our pursuit was, in minor prophet Joel, he says, in the last days,
Okay.
all right, I'm going to pour out my spirit upon all flesh. And your old men will dream dreams,
That'd
your
be me.
young men will see visions.
Okay.
Okay, so that kind of gives us a heads up that as we move closer and closer to the time of Jesus' re-entrance back into our global world, is that this kind of an experience potentially could become commonplace. And so that's kind of what we have known for years, but never really placed value on it.
Can I ask you this then? Okay, there's Baptists, Presbyterians. You could name a lot, and who are taught differently.
Right.
They love the Lord, they're saved, and they may not believe this. So I'm going to ask you this. Even
Sure.
though they may not believe it now, are they still present time, real time, still receiving revelation from God through dreams as we speak?
It's entirely possible. Everybody's different and their experience is different, but, we ran across people, because now we have been all over the world tracking with people for the purpose of evangelism, but in the process of our encountering people, we would ask questions like, have you had any dreams? Do you experience, visionary kind of things, just out of curiosity? And so we started encountering a lot of young people who don't even necessarily believe in God, but are having what we would consider God kinds of dreams. It's like God leaving His calling card, all right, in the night season. And so, for us, it was hard to set that aside and say that's pizza,
Right.
all right, or whatever, because it was so specific. I mean, we're talking about young people who don't believe in God, who are seeing the judgment seat of Christ, who are seeing people go into heaven and people going into hell, and they're standing in the middle of the line, okay? Now, what are the chances of that just being pizza, all right?
But isn't it interesting we all have that expression, because people are trying to explain away
Right.
by pizza
Right.
that God is speaking to them all
Right.
the time.
I think part of that is just our cultural training, because in our experience, dreams are not necessarily like a science, all right? It's not like, you can take a formula and hand off to people and say, if you do this, this, and this, it will turn out to be this. But on the same hand, like I said, we've encountered, once we begin to give value to this, pay attention to it, start talking about it, communicate on it, we start getting emails from people who, a year in advance, all right, foresaw the tsunami that hit Japan.
Wow.
And it was so detailed, they went down to a place, had it documented, dated, and archived.
And so when we come back, though, I want to talk about, you mentioned Joseph, the father, or the earthly father of Jesus. We're going to talk about that, how we begin to see, because people say, well, that was Old Testament, you know, Joseph had a dream. That Joseph had a dream, and there was other. Jacob had these dreams, but in the New Testament, those things are done away with. Well, they're not done away with.
No.
In fact, we're shown. So when we come back, let's talk about that, Cindy, and what Joseph teaches us, because there's lots of good stuff. All right, so we'll be right back.
Call or go online now to order Cindy McGill's latest book, plus her award-winning DVD film documentary and CD set called How to Unlock God's Secrets for Your Life, Hidden in Your Dreams. This package includes Cindy's award-winning DVD, Dreams, a documentary, plus this 2 CD set and her popular book, What Your Dreams Are Telling You, Unlocking Solutions While You Sleep, which will help you to not only interpret your own dreams, but others' dreams too, even those you meet on the street. Cindy McGill's Dreams, a documentary film, is the winner of several national and international awards. Join Cindy and her team as she visits different public events to help dreamers unlock their dreams, giving them clarity and new hope for their lives. In this out-of-the-box package, Cindy and her dream team go undercover to some of the darkest places in the U.S. to share the love of Jesus with hurting people and uniquely minister to them through dream interpretation. In this complete package today, discover that dream interpretation is an open door to sharing the gospel to non-believers. Understand the many different types of dreams you can have and practical steps in helping yourself and others interpret their dreams too. Uncover a secret weapon for success to reach your full potential, all while getting a good night's sleep. Cindy says tonight you will have about 4 dreams. Find out what they are telling you and what you can now do about it. Also in this life-shaking package, you'll find out new roles and expressions to the world that Cindy says the church needs to shift into, and receive new and fun techniques to share the gospel while compelling the hurting people to finally encounter Christ. Now, if you want to find out how to influence yours and others' lives through dream interpretation and be equipped yourself in new and unique ways to go into the darkest places to share the gospel, you won't want to miss out on Cindy McGill's new offer called How to Unlock God's Secrets for Your Life, Hidden in Your Dreams, made exclusively available just for you, our Elijah Streams viewer. This package is all yours for a donation of just $39. Shipping and handling included. Ask for offer number 1006. To order by phone, call the toll-free number listed here, or to order online, go to the link on your screen, or you can send a check to Elijah Streams, 528 Ellsworth Street Southwest, Albany, Oregon 97321. Please specify offer number 1006 or log on to Elijah Streams at elijahstreams.com. Call or write today.
Well, we're back. We want to talk about how we know, especially starting with the New Testament, how do we know that dreams are for today? And we mentioned about Joseph, the earthly father of Jesus. Cindy, talk about that.
Yeah, you know, people would say to me when we started using dream interpretation as an evangelistic tool to get into the hearts, to build a bridge or to lower a bridge, they'd say, well, that's New Age. And I go, no, that's Genesis. And they said, well, then that's just for the Old Testament. And I went over to Matthew 1 and 2 and began to look at the life of when Jesus was coming the first time to earth. And the father of Jesus, the earthly father of Jesus, when Mary was found with child, was given 3 specific dreams. How to keep him alive, how to navigate the whole experience when Jesus was coming the first time. And he got up and did exactly what he saw the dream or heard the angel tell him in the dream to do. And I thought, this was a very precarious situation. I mean, he was ordered, you know, if he found her with child, to put her away publicly.
Right.
But he chose not to do it, and he followed the direction of the dream. And I always thought about it in my mind, you know, God could have used anything to communicate the message. He could have done it. He could have had the entire universe sing songs to Joseph. He could have had choirs develop, or animals talk, or rocks cry out, or anything happen. But what he chose to use was a dream, because it's a secret weapon.
In Job, it's called dark sayings, and one of the things.
Right.
It's symbol. Let me ask you this about that, because Joseph got literal instructions.
Yes.
Other people get symbols, and some people are so prolific in their dreams that their dreams symbols all night
Right.
long. Other people, maybe the spouse sleeping next to them gets a literal dream. God told me tomorrow we're supposed to go.
Exactly.
Can you elaborate on that? How do we know which is which?
It's a little tricky because you would think that in reading the dreams of Joseph, it was so specific it would have been a night vision, but God called it a dream. And I always think that dreams need an interpretation. You know, like their symbolism, they're parabolic, they have a story language in them. And those are the kinds of dreams that we have to interpret, we have to make sense out of, or we put another set of eyes and we see something that the dreamer missed. But in this situation, they were very specific. So that just tells me that God's not limited.
Right, so the person receiving it and those watching right now can understand that the dream God gives you tonight may very well be literal or may very well be full of symbolisms that's going to take you weeks, or some of my dreams have taken years to come
exactly.
true. I think of a dream that I had 30 years ago about, and I was working in the world in Dallas, Texas, and in the dream, the guy I worked for, he wanted to get these contracts that would come to him, and I said, and God gave me a dream. Rather than going into it, I'll just tell you that I went to my boss and I said, I had a dream last night. He was about to freak him out because I said, I had a dream last night. Don't worry about this contract. It's going to fail right now. But they will come back to you and offer to make this contract with you again, only they're going to offer that you pay much less to them. That exact thing happened within a couple months. And he told me later, he says, you're just freaking me out. You're scared. I'm scared. It got him afraid of God in probably a good way.
Right.
He was afraid to mess up because God was speaking to him even about that. And it came to, that was literal.
Right.
But the next dream I would have had after that would not have been literal. So have you had any literal dreams that you followed?
I had one literal dream. This was actually when we were on our way over to Scotland. We were going to be ministering in Ireland and Scotland. And I had a dream. And in this dream, the worship leader came to me in this dream and said, my wife is pregnant and I'm so concerned that she's going to have a miscarriage.
Wow.
And so there was, and so I prayed for him. And I didn't know the guy. This was like our introduction into this area of Scotland and Ireland, all right? So it was my Sunday to minister, and I felt like I was supposed to share that dream that morning. And lo and behold, it was Mother's Day that Sunday. And so I thought, oh, this is crazy. So anyway, I shared the dream and I said, I want to have all the mothers who are, expecting stand up. Well, when this one young mother stood up, the whole church went ballistic. All right.
It was the same woman in the dream.
And her husband came up afterwards and he said to me, you're a bad man. And I'm like, what did I do? Well, they were trying to keep it secret, all right, because she had had a miscarriage, and they wanted to make sure that this was a take. And they were worried, they were concerned. So when I said this, it released faith in their heart. I prayed for all the mothers. So this was just a very specific word for a very specific time, for a very specific couple. And he came up to me the following year we were there and thanked me again. It had made all the difference.
I think when God gives a very, very literal dream, it tends to be quick, it tends to be almost now, and it tends to be so important you need to act on it now. When we come back, we'll talk about symbolic dreams. All right? We'll see you in a minute.
Call or go online now to order Cindy McGill's latest book, plus her award-winning DVD film documentary and CD set called How to Unlock God's Secrets for Your Life, Hidden in Your Dreams. This package includes Cindy's award-winning DVD, Dreams, a documentary, plus this 2 CD set and her popular book, What Your Dreams Are Telling You, Unlocking Solutions While You Sleep, which will help you to not only interpret your own dreams, but others' dreams too, even those you meet on the street. Cindy McGill's Dreams, a documentary film, is the winner of several national and international awards. Join Cindy and her team as she visits different public events to help dreamers unlock their dreams, giving them clarity and new hope for their lives. In this out-of-the-box package, Cindy and her dream team go undercover to some of the darkest places in the U.S. to share the love of Jesus with hurting people and uniquely minister to them through dream interpretation. In this complete package today, discover that dream interpretation is an open open door to sharing the gospel to non-believers. Understand the many different types of dreams you can have and practical steps in helping yourself and others interpret their dreams too. Uncover a secret weapon for success to reach your full potential, all while getting a good night's sleep. Cindy says tonight you will have about 4 dreams. Find out what they are telling you and what you can now do about it. Also in this life-shaking package, you'll find out new roles and expressions to the world that Cindy says the church needs to shift into, and receive new and fun techniques to share the gospel while compelling the hurting people to finally encounter Christ. Now, if you want to find out how to influence yours and others' lives through dream interpretation and be equipped yourself in new and unique ways to go into the darkest places to share the gospel, you won't want to miss out on Cindy McGill's new offer called How to Unlock God's Secrets for Your Life, Hidden in Your Dreams, made exclusively available just for you, our Elijah Streams viewer. This package is all yours for a donation of just $39. Shipping and handling included. Ask for offer number 1006. To order by phone, call the toll-free number listed here, or to order online, go to the link on your screen, or you can send a check to Elijah Streams, 528 Ellsworth Street Southwest, Albany, Oregon 97321. Please specify offer number 1006 or log on to Elijah Streams at ElijahStreams.com. Call or write today.
Hi, we're back with Elijah Streams. Listen, we've been talking about literal dreams, and now it's time to talk about symbolic. Most of us probably have more symbolic dreams than literal, but we all have both. But Tim, you and I were talking even off camera about symbolic dreams, and you had an example.
Symbolic dreams are, in our experience, are the primary way that God communicates, all right? And what we've kind of learned over the years is that one of the primary, I guess, desires of God in relationship to us is that we would seek His face. And so He gives symbolic dreams or dreams that are kind of hard to understand to set a hook in us, in our heart, that pull us into Him.
So before you finish that, you're saying on purpose,
yes,
in the heart of God, He goes, I'm going to give him this dream.
Right.
And it's going to be difficult at first to even grasp it.
Right. There's something, it's almost like a grain of sand in an oyster.
Yeah.
Okay. There's an kind of an irritant to it, but it's designed to pull us into Him, because there's just always a going back to it. And that's one of the things that we look for when we're interpreting dreams, is people who remember it. They could have happened years ago, but something was set in them. And so I've had a number of those kind of dreams that relate to not so much individuals, but perhaps maybe the church at large. One such dream was, has been some time ago, but I had a dream and I was standing before this large body of water. It wasn't the ocean, it was like the Great Lakes. Okay, the sun was setting, a storm had passed, and there's this huge body. I knew intuitively that if I could get out to the water, it was synonymous with refreshing, with healing, with everything that has value for us redemptively in our walk with God. So in the dream, I start pursuing and going out to this body of water because it's a distance off. And as I go out, I sink waist deep in this mud because the waters had receded, and there I was, the sun setting, I'm in a wilderness setting, nobody is there. If I wanted to cry, who would hear me, kind of a feeling. And in that moment of time, I sensed or perceived something behind me. I turned around and looked, and it was like a picture straight out of the book of Revelations. It was Jesus on his white stallion.
Wow.
And angels were like obscuring his face. I could see him from the waist down. And in that moment of time, it was, some of my friends, when they see Jesus, they feel compassion and love. What I felt in that moment was my next breath is in whoever is on that horse.
Wow.
It was a revelation of his absolute authority. This is King Jesus.
And when you're having this symbolic dream, I want to point out that you're saying it's important about what you felt during the dream, not just what you saw, but the thoughts that were in your head. It's not just relating the scene, it's what you felt as you related the scene. People sometimes miss that.
Yeah, because God incorporates all of our emotions, everything. This is God's idea of communication, where he involves the whole person. All right, so in that moment of time, I just thought, and the next second I'm out of the mud, I'm on the rocks over here, and there's an angel standing in front of me who used to be up in his presence, and I knew that, and he's about as close as I am to you, and he does this weird thing. He says, look for the woman whose face, and he's very intent, like, how am I going to communicate this to this guy?
Yeah.
He says, and he said it twice, look for the woman whose face, and he does this weird thing with his hands. That was it. Boom, I come out of this thing, and I'm like, what was that?
Talk about frustrating and irritating.
Yeah.
Tell me,
Right.
what do you mean with this?
And so for time's sake, all right, we talked about this back and forth, no clue. A year later, I talked to a guy from John Paul Jackson's ministry, and he says, let me think about it. He calls me up the next morning, and he says, I've got it. He says, the woman is the church. The face of the church is not definable. It's in transition, and part of your calling in the days to come is to define the transition and begin to proclaim it. So this is an end-time revelation of Jesus. He's coming back. The primary expression of Jesus in the end days will be the rod of iron. It's his authority, his sovereign authority and lordship. As the nations are in darkness, all right, he is going to come through the church, the expression of his authority, and bring stability into culture, into nations. But it's going to demand a shift in the structure of the church to support that.
So what I'm getting out of this, and I'm watching that we're almost out of time here on this, but you can't always interpret your own dreams. In fact, a significant number of my dreams were never interpreted by me.
Right.
I needed someone else. The body of Christ needs other people to help them with their dreams. And I'll just share this one. Some of the dreams that have been interpreted for me of my own, I knew it when I knew it. I knew it when I heard it. I might have 5 people try to interpret it for me. When the one correct interpretation comes, I go, that's it.
It resonates.
That's it. That's it. Well, we're out of time on this, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Right now, I want to throw this to Sunil Isaac, who does a great job doing our decoder section. So take it away, Sunil.
Welcome to Prophecy Decoders. I'm Sunil Isaac. Surely the Lord God does nothing unless he reveals his plans or his heart to his servants, the prophets. I say heart because that's the best thing about prophecy, is when God is revealing his heart for us. He's revealing his plans to us. One version says his secrets to us. And so I want to illustrate that concept of God revealing his plans or his secrets to us in advance through his servants, the prophets, by revisiting a prophecy spoken by Charlie Shamp. This is in regarding Iran. There is a rumbling coming that will shake the ground. You will feel its force, for it will be a sign of what will come, a shaking in your government, a shaking in the economy, a shaking of your religion. I will shake free every hand and foot from the shackles that hold them, and they will walk free. Yes, they will march in the streets. I will bring the 4 winds from the 4 quarters of heaven and will shatter deception and scatter your lies by these winds. Get ready, for it will begin. The dry bones will come to life. Even the bones of my prophet Daniel, who is buried in your country, will shake as a sign that my people in the nation will awake. Multiple signs given, and that's what I love about prophecy. Especially a prophecy like this, when you can connect the clues, you can connect the prophetic puzzle pieces together. And in one moment in time, suddenly all these clues align together and we can see the picture more clearly. Just like in a puzzle. We can see it more clearly when the puzzle pieces connect. And so I want to analyze a headline reported by, after the prophecy was given, reported by Jerusalem Post on July 23rd, 2018. Magnitude 5.8 quake hits southeast Iran, 4th trembler in 2 days. 4th trembler in 2 days, a very unusual phenomena, something noteworthy. The 4th trembler in 2 days. So we see the shaking happening in Iran. Now, in the prophecy, there was some kind of connection between the shaking of the ground and the economy, and we saw this emerge in the news. Fox News had this to say on August 6, 2018. U.S. sanctions decrease Iran's currency by nearly half. National Security Advisor John Bolton said the Iranian economy has gone into a, quote, tailspin, with its currency decreasing by nearly half over the reimposition of sanctions by President Trump. demonstrations and riots on the streets as the Iranian economy has taken a tailspin. We are seeing the prophetic clues given in advance emerge or manifest in the news. Demonstrations on the streets demonstrating against the collapse of the economy, which was also a prophetic clue given. Also, just a few days prior to that, an unusual shaking. You see how all the prophetic puzzle pieces are connecting together? We are seeing the picture more clearly. And when they connect like that, we can now understand what God's plan is, what his heart is for that nation. What is the real message from heaven? So let's revisit that prophecy. Charlie Shamp said, "There is a rumbling coming that will shake the ground. You will feel its force, for it will be a sign of what will come. A shaking in your government, a shaking in the economy, a shaking of your religion. The dry bones will come to life, even the bones of my prophet Daniel, who is buried in your country, will shake as a sign that my people in the nation will awake." So that is the message from heaven. That is God's heart. He wants to awaken that nation. He wants to shake that nation so that his people will awake. You see, all those clues, all those signs were given to us so that we can focus on the fact that God's heart is he wants to awaken that nation. God's people are there in Iran. Yes, even in Iran, there are people who fear and love God, who love the Lord Jesus Christ, who are Christians, who are praying. They are persecuted, but they're praying. They may be persecuted, but they're still praying. Strong people of God are in Iran, and he is shaking Iran so that the people of Iran will awake. So focus your eyes on Iran. Focus on your eyes on what will emerge in Iran, how the move of God will suddenly burst forth because the prophetic puzzle pieces are connecting, and that is good news. And I love that last tidbit Charlie Shamp said there about the bones of Daniel. I looked it up. Yes, it is believed that the bones of Daniel are in Iran. There is actually a tomb that is very famous there in Iran where they, even Muslims alike, acknowledge that it is the tomb of prophet Daniel. So, focus on Iran, focus on what's going to emerge, because Christians are going to rise up. Jesus is going to manifest himself amongst even the Muslims and shine forth. We have many reasons to rejoice. Go to God today and hear from him. Thank you for watching.
Hey, we're back again. Dreams is so fascinating. We could literally have an hour show or a 2-hour show or a 3-hour show on this. But Cindy, you and Tim have a boot camp thing that you do.
Yes.
Tell us about the boot camp.
It's called Freedom Lounge Boot Camp, and Freedom Lounge is once again the safe space or the communities that we're developing for outreach efforts. Our desire is to raise up end-time harvesters, people who can go out into the field and not feel afraid. And we uncover dream interpretation, we cover strategies in different language that God's given us to reach the people of today. And you can go on my website, cindymcgill.org, and there's all kinds of information about how to book a boot camp. We take you on an outreach. We give you wristbands and language to use to a world that doesn't speak Christianese.
Okay.
So it's very effective for today.
Okay, well, thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
And listen,
Thank you.
if you have dreams, you're hearing from God, all right? I'll leave you with that, and we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.